The Athar, also known as the Defiers, the Lost, and the ones who claim the gods are frauds. The Athar philosophy boils down to this: the gods are phony. They aren't really gods. Sure, they're powerful, but they're not gods. They can die, they rely on mortals for their power, and they feud among themselves like children. They're the same as you and me, just more powerful. Anyone could be them with enough time, talent, and dedication. Mortals aren't drawing power from the gods they worship. They're drawing power from some unknowable source, and the gods just take responsibility for it. There's something out there, some true god behind the veil of the unknowable, but the powers that mortals know and worship aren't it. The Athar want to pull back that curtain and learn the unlearnable. Now, the Athar aren't foolish. They let the powers call themselves gods. There's no point in upsetting the powers, because an angry power is still a very dangerous enemy. Their primary plane of influence is the astral plane. They point to the corpses of the dead gods that lie there as proof of their beliefs. Their role in Sigil in 2nd edition is running a propaganda campaign. They put up posters with a rune that, when glanced at, causes a voice to be heard in your head that recounts a tale devised by the Athar for that week's distribution. Usually a tale of a god's folly or their similarity to mortals. They also gather information on how the various temples acquire their wealth and what they do with it. Once they figure out the flow of funds through the temples, they can disrupt that stream easily. Factol Terrence believes, quote, "Poverty'll make a lot of priests, sisters, and brothers hear new calls," end quote. Their role in 5th edition is very similar. Their spy networks keep tabs on the faiths of the city. If a church pushes a god's influence too strongly, the Athar deal with it, either directly themselves or leak the information to a faction that will, such as the Harmonium. In 2nd edition, they were frequent allies with the believers of the Source, since their ideologies are similar. After the faction war, they counted the Mind's Eye among their allies, partly because they're made up of ex-members of the believers of the Source, so their philosophies align somewhat, and partly because they both made their bases out in the Outlands, and the Athar need any ally they can get on the plains, since most people don't like their idea that the gods are false. Eligibility. Priests of a specific deity can never be members, but general clerics can. They believe there is some mysterious being that gives all priests their powers, and the gods are just taking credit for it. The Athar's priests are all general clerics of this being, called the Greater Unknown. Benefits. All Athar members are immune to the following priest spells: Abjure, Augury, Bestow Curse, Curse, Divination, Enthrall, Exaction, Holy Word, and Quest. I guess the idea, since that they don't believe in the gods, and the outer planes are fueled by belief, they are immune to certain divine spells. I'm not exactly sure why these spells in particular though. I can't tell if there's a theme between them. The Athar factotums, which they call Atheons, receive a +2 to saving throws versus priest spells cast by clerics, proxies, and servants to any powers. This includes spell-like abilities of creatures such as Divas and Batazu serving a power. If 4 or more Atheons of at least 4th level link hands and encircle a creature, they can cast Banishment as a 7th level wizard. This affects up to 2 hit dice or level of creature per caster level, and on a success they are banished to their home plane. Petitioners cannot leave their plane for a year, servants a month, and proxies a week. For every Atheon in the circle beyond the initial 4, the creature takes a -1 penalty to the save. Factors, of 9th level and higher, learn a special obscurement technique. Priests, divine servants, and the powers themselves, using spells or spell-like abilities to locate or discover information about an Athar factor, must first succeed on a saving throw versus spell. Restrictions. Since they deny the validity of the powers, specialty priests will refuse to perform spells for them, especially healing magic. In dire circumstances, a priest could be convinced to violate this restriction, but any self-respecting Athar wouldn't let a toady of a power touch them. Their Factol is named Terrence. He is a lawful good, male human planar, and a 19th level priest of the Greater Unknown. In 5th edition, he doesn't have his own stat block, but instead just uses a generic stat block for all Athar members that is only CR5. The Lost believe that priests don't get their power from gods, but from some other unknown entity, and the false gods just take credit. Terrence is a priest of that unknown being, called the Greater Unknown. He used to be a priest of Mishakal in Elysium, but one day he realized the truth. Every solution to every problem he had faced in his life was from his own intellect and intuition. No power ever gave him divine guidance or strength. He had communed with Mishakal many times in his life, but he never sensed any divine presence, just simple conversations with a frill or two the power threw in to excite his mortal capacity for awe. He still respects Mishakal for her influence and healing power, but he knew that she was not divine, and then he moved to Sigil. Most Defiers embrace bitterness, but Terrence remains compassionate, acting as a friendly guide for lost souls. During the faction war, the Lady banished him to the mazes, but by 5th edition, he is back leading the Athar, with no explanation as to how he came back, or how he's even still alive given he has a normal human lifespan. History. The Athar faction was founded by Dun and Chiro when they met each other at the Shattered Temple. Dun had everything cheated out of him by Poseidon. His wealth was in the treasury of the Sea God's Temple and the gate town Sylvania. His wife was lured from him by the chief priest to his Arborian pavilion, and his daughter had been wooed by Poseidon's proxy. Dun went to the Shattered Temple trying to find a way to make Poseidon as dead as Eoskar, the dead god this temple used to be dedicated to. Chiro had also lost everything to a god, Loki, but he liked his unencumbered life. Roaming the plains as a sage suited him more than slaving in a counting house to maintain a modest life. But Chiro wondered why a power would need to bribe his priests with gold, should require the belief of his worshippers to fuel his immortality, if he was really a god. Surely a divine being should follow different rules than mortals. They shouldn't need faith like men need food. They shouldn't require tithes the way a monarch requires taxes. Dun mistook Chiro as a follower of Eoskar and attacked him for daring to worship any god. They fought, which Athar historians refer to as the Duel of Swords. Next came the Duel of Words, followed by a mutual pledge to meet among the ruins in half a year, bringing tales of their deeds against the powers along with like-minded recruits. Hierarchy. Athar namers must provide housing to factotums. Athar factotums are called Atheons, which translates to godless in the language used by priests of the dead god Eoskar. A namer becomes an Atheon in a night ceremony in the Shattered Temple, where they must bring 3 articles imbued with the false god's power and destroy them during the rite. Low-level Atheons serve as guards, messengers, or technical experts. Mid-level Atheons, 4th to 7th, serve as envoys, independent operatives, or overseers. The only way to advance from Atheon to Factor is to cause a significant victory over a power or its proponents. The Factors choose a replacement Factol when necessary, and those candidates must defile a temple before assuming the position of Factol. Their headquarters is the Shattered Temple, located in the Lower Ward. It's a ruined temple surrounded by other ruins. Most of Sigil considers the place to be a bad omen and cursed, refusing to live, do business, or go anywhere near there. Only the Athar would ignore these superstitions. It used to be a temple called the Great Temple of Doors, and was dedicated to the now dead god of portals, Eoskar. Eoskar, being a god of portals, decided he wanted to claim Sigil as his own, and built up quite a following. The Lady of Pain didn't like this, so she killed him, destroyed his temple, struck his name from all records, and made worship of him illegal. Now, the Shattered Temple is a ruin used by the Athar as their headquarters. They see the fact that a god can die as proof of their philosophy, which is why they make their headquarters in the temple dedicated to a god that is dead. In the early days of the faction, there was a portal to the astral plane inside the Shattered Temple that led to the corpse of a dead god. They would take people on tours throughout the temple and into the astral to view the god's corpse, proving their point that the gods are not divine. As of the 2nd edition time period, so late 1300s DR in the Forgotten Realms, that portal is closed, but they still give tours of the temple. By the time of 5th edition, so late 1400s DR, the portal has reawakened. The Shattered Temple's walls are magically reinforced, and in the center is a giant enchanted tree that absorbs the spells of all the magical items destroyed during the Atheon initiation rites. In 2nd edition, this tree was called the Boever Juhu. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a French word, and I looked up some pronunciations and did my best, but I'm not French, and I'm not good at this. Anyway, this tree enhanced Factol Terrance's powers, allowing him to cast any pre-spell without worrying about spell slots, as long as he was touching the tree. However, the range was limited to around the temple. He can also take a fruit or flower from the tree to store a spell for later. If anyone else touches the tree, they would take 1d12 damage, they lose the ability to cast spells until a long rest, and any magic items they hold must make a save or be absorbed into the tree. In 5th edition, this tree is called the Luminous Arbor, and is said to be the source of power for all priests of the Greater Unknown, with no mention of its spell storing abilities or only the Factol being able to touch it. After the faction war, and factions were made illegal in Sigil, the Athar relocated their headquarters to the base of the Spire in the Outlands, since the center of the Outlands is the only place in the multiverse outside of Sigil that gods can't get to them. By 5th edition, the Athar are back in the Shattered Temple. One thing about the Athar philosophy to keep in mind is, the Athar aren't atheists. See, they believe that the gods exist. They just don't believe that they're truly gods. They don't think they're divine. They're not worthy of worship. They're just mortals who happen to be extremely powerful. On top of that, they don't believe that no gods exist. Something is out there giving priests all of these priest spells. But whatever that is, we don't know anything about it. And that's what they're trying to figure out. And that is the information on the Athar, the ones who claim the gods are frauds. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and I should have a video out next week on the next faction of Sigil.